Good morning. It is Friday, May 17th, starting a new vlog 5-part series, My Censored World, Part 1, Overview of Censorship from Oriental to My Son's Misogyny. So, this is coming from the front lines of the culture war in Portland, Oregon. In 2002, at the end of 2002, moved to Japan for a little over a year. And when I had returned in the beginning of 2004, Paris Hilton was a thing. That was surprising. Hadn't heard of her before. To give you kind of a cultural anchor to as a reference, that was when she hit the scene. And the word Oriental was no longer allowed in reference to people. Instead, Asian was the only one to describe a broad group of people, which Oriental had once been a portion of Asia. Now, I suppose East Asian, or just kind of the mashing of Korean, Japanese, and Chinese, which very distinct from, let's say, Indians or Filipinos, or it was interesting and educational when I returned and socialized with people that were language policing me. And that was things like this had happened before, but this is one moment that really stood out to me, because I'd been away for about 14 months. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, and then in the following videos, in this video, and then the following videos in the upcoming weeks, I'll talk about how I, as a creator, started early with the internet right when I came back. I started a little bit before I went to Japan, but really created my own domain and website after I came back in around 2004, and then had to retreat as I ran into more policing of the language and had to choose. I had some tough choices. Talk a little bit about that. Talk about years later when I ventured out politically, right as I'd been venturing out politically for a little while in local politics, and then things came to a head with Occupy. Occupy Portland was a thing, and then I'll do one on censorship as related to my son, in the years that he's been attending school in Portland. He's 9 now, so it'll be entirely elementary school oriented. Well, maybe a little bit before, and then talk where I think things are right now. A lot of exciting things are happening. I'm sure in the upcoming weeks, even more exciting censorship-related issues will be in the news, and I will talk about those and where I think things are heading for the final video. So, I went to Japan because I needed money, and I found a culture that I loved and a person that I loved there, my wife to be. I didn't want to stay there. It was too stifling for my creativity at that age, although in more recent visits, now that I've settled down as an old man, I can see myself living there now. But Portland, I think, is still, of all the places I've ever been, the best city to live. And this is, even with the culture war, being on the front lines of the culture war, it's still a wonderful city full of wonderful people. The environment, there's so many great things about this city. And even the harshness of the political correctness and the liberal tyranny is the regressive left is kind of fun. I know that there is a battle to be won here. There is a good fight to be had. There is a purpose, and I appreciate. It's a landmine. It's a a field of landmines. So I must be cautious and careful as I have people to take care of. But if I can navigate, I can be a part of returning sense, I hope, to my world, as I attempted with my political volunteerism, which I'll speak on in a few videos in more detail. But yeah, I really love Portland, and so when I was excited to return after 14 months being away teaching English in 2004, and I was preparing for my fiance, setting up a good home to make her, to woo her. Well, she wasn't my fiance at the time. To woo my girlfriend, long distance girlfriend, into becoming my fiance, and then just preparing a world that would make her family comfortable and her comfortable, becoming a part of Portland, instead of and leaving her everything behind. It's a huge step, and I recognize that. And when she came, I was have a lot of rough edges, and socially I was very resistant to language policing. And with my fiance at the time, I think still a fiance, there was a party, a house party, pretty mild, old friends from college, and one of my old friends' girlfriends, I think. She might have been actually the renter of where we were. I used the word Oriental, and she came down on me like a ton of bricks. I don't even think she was Asian. And I just was confused. It just didn't make sense to me. And I tried to have a conversation about it, and she would not let me talk about it. And that was even more surprising than this word being off limits. I was not allowed to question. I was not allowed to have a conversation. This was 2004. Things have gone so much further down into the pit. Now, have an argument. Have a rational, logical reason, belief. Convince me that certain words are banned. Certain behavior, certain ways of speaking, certain things that are said should not be said. Convince me. Talk, converse. But when you do not allow any kind of conversation, if it's just dictatorial dictation, tyrannical talking, if it is just stated with the force of will and hate and fire and pigeonholing any who disagree like lepers on a colony, this is a problem. And I saw it flaming. I saw it sparking something in me that grew into a deep-seated resentment. And I is mitigated by a woman helping smooth my rough edges. I am not someone who is really. I am not someone who allows bullies to push me around. I will bite. I have thorns. I have horns. I will tear and I will rend. I will rip and I will shred. Do not corner a boar. You allow a way out. You have a door. You converse to the side as they edge. You woo them with words. And then maybe you can convince an ideological change. So, I returned from Japan and found a wonderful home in Portland with a battle that had begun before I realized what civil war it was, a culture civil war. Next week, I will talk a little bit about my first real foray into the internet, and then my retreat from it for the survival of my family. Bye-bye.